I'm Justin Davis, and this is Runcam's RC. Hey guys, welcome back to the Camps channel. Today I have a new review for you. Today we're going to fly the Skystars, and this is the X120 Bolt. A really interesting X-frame design. It has a unibody on the bottom, and we're running some Flash 2540 props on here. Those are the Gem Fan 2045 props. They're pretty smooth. I've already flight tested it, and it did well on the stock PIDs, which means good news for me because I don't have to tune it. I can use the same PIDs that it came from the factory with, which is great. It also has Betaflight 3.2 on here ready to go, and it has a flat top on top with 4 screws to take off the top plate. The top plate is 1.5 millimeter, and I have enough room on here to put my Firefly cam, which I really like a lot. But let's go ahead and we'll talk about the specs a little more, and then we'll hop into Betaflight and help you out there. Now the motors that this little guy is rocking today is some 1106 motors, and those are 4500 kV, so they're a little lower kV than some of the other motors out there. So with a 850, something like a 4S 850 should give you a really good flight time. If you want to go down a little bit to a 450 milliamp 4S, you can also do that. But since you have a 20 amp 4-in-1 ESC with a 25 amp burst on there, you can go 3 to 4S no problem. It flies great on the 4S battery, which I love. And we've got that little sort of Runcam clone on here. This is a Runcam micro style clone, and I've flown these before and they fly really nice and they look great. It seems like it has a nice WDR for the light and dark changes. It does really well, especially on the brighter days. And I just pulled up the Gearbest website, and it looks like the Babyhawk Frsky version of this is like $152. Let's check out the plug and play version, and that one's going to be, that's add your own receiver, by the way. That's $141. And if you wanted to get a kit with no receiver, you can get it for $135. Plug and play with no receiver, $141. Bind and fly with a Flysky receiver, that's $148. But the Bind and fly Frsky receiver is the one that I got, and that one's the XM, not the XM Plus receiver on here. I have one antenna coming off the very back right here, and the 5.8 VTX antennas coming out the back here. And I did take 2 zip ties and just stand those up off the back with a little bit of heat shrink. That's what I would suggest for you guys. Now also, before you set this up in Betaflight, make sure you have your props off, but mine's all ready to go. And after I show you a little bit of setup in Betaflight, we're gonna go out and do some line of sight, and we'll do some FPV. And we also have a 5.8 gigahertz video transmitter at the very top right here. It has 40 channels, race band, and you do have switchable options on here, 25, 100, and 150 milliwatt switchable. And there's a button right on the side, on this side over here, just covering just underneath that wire right there. You can switch channels, long press it for like 6 to 10 seconds, and you can change the power frequencies from 25, 100 to 150. And I don't know if you guys have seen the Firefly before. If you're new to this channel, you probably haven't seen it yet, but we've had it on a bunch of different quads. And right now I just have the mount that came with it. So it comes with this little mount with 30 degrees of tilt right here. And I have the same amount in my camera, maybe a little more. I could probably crank my camera down a little bit, but it's awesome because it's only 14 grams and it records 1080p video or 720p video. It has a little charge port here. You've got a micro SD card slot, which is covered up a little bit by the case, which I like a lot. So when you crash, this doesn't pop out and you lose it. It has a power button right here. If you turn it on, just press and hold right there, and you'll see a little blue light pop up. And if you press once on that side, it changes it to 720p. You press once again, and it changes it back to 1080p. Now you can press on the power button to make it start recording and stop it. If you press it once, you'll see that light flashing, and now it's recording. If I press it again, it stops the video. If you long press it, it turns it off. But a pretty sweet camera. I've been using it on tons of stuff, and I'll show you some of the footage from this today when we fly it. It doesn't make a whole lot of difference with the weight for this quad. Now let's just go ahead and hook it up to Betaflight, and let me show you what the settings are inside here. If you're just watching this video for the first time, this might help you with a little bit of setup on yours. I'm just gonna walk you through this real quick so you guys have this information. You always wanna check your orientation first on this screen. Make sure that back is back, front is front, left and right, just like that. So your orientation on your flight controller is correct. Now you're going to check your port setting, and the way they have it set up for an XM receiver is UART1, so make sure that this is checked just like that. And we're going to run this S-Bus So go to the configuration tab next. You're going to do D-Shot 600. I turned motor stop off right here because they always seem to have motor stop on and it doesn't work very good for me. So I don't like that because it doesn't spin up the props when the quad is armed, and that's kind of an issue. I did turn up motor idle to 9 just in case we have the flip of death. I turned off barometer. It seemed like for some reason they had barometer on, and I'm not sure why. This tab right here lets you change your craft name. I have X120 Bolt right there, and receiver is going to be serial based SpecSat S-Bus, and just below that you're going to do S-Bus serial receiver provider, because when you go in the ports tab you have serial RX checked right there, and that just lets you know that you have a serial RX type receiver. Now going all the way to the bottom here, they have LED strip turned on, which is fine. I have air mode turned off. They do have the dynamic filter set is turned on right here. I'm going to leave that, and it seems like they have everything on at the bottom. Normally I go and I check and turn off a lot of this, but for today we're just going to leave most of that on. Now in the power and battery tab, you can turn down your minimum cell voltage down to around 3 volt if you want to. Might be getting dangerously low for your battery, but you're not going to get the on-screen warnings, which is kind of annoying. So we'll just leave that set to 3.0 there, and that would be a really low cell count. Failsafe, we're going to leave that set to drop, and that's good. We have no pulses, so we'll get a total dropout if we have any issue there. And let me zoom into the PIDs configuration menu for you so you can see that. Right now they have 19, 26, and 8 on the roll, 19, 26, and 8 on the pitch, and 19, 44 on the yaw, and those all work really good. I did a test flight earlier and I didn't see any type of vibration in the quad whatsoever, so that's really, really good. But over here on the super rates, guys, we have 7.0 all the way across. 0.70 is plenty of roll and pitch and yaw. That's just going to make it a little smoother. They had it cranked all the way up to like 83 on the very top axis, which is the roll axis, and I believe they had something like 75 on the pitch and 75 on the yaw, but I dialed those all back just so it would fly a little smoother. Now once you've bound up your receiver to your Frsky radio, you want to check that all your channels are correct. So go ahead and grab your radio, and this is the way that you want them to move. So I'm just going to show you here what that looks like. Now we're going to do the throttle up and down. So your throttle should move up and down just like that. And on the yaw axis, that's going to be right and left there. Goes right and left, okay? And now on the pitch and roll, so we're going to pitch forward. That should go up when you go up with your stick, and down should go the other direction, just like that. Now we're going to do roll to the left, roll to the right. So all the channel axes are right, so you don't have any issues there. And we're going to check my arm button, which is going to be my auxiliary 1. My beeper is on aux 3. Okay, so everything looks good there, and that's sort of generally how I set my sticks up, and usually it takes me just a few minutes to do that. Now inside the modes tab, we went one more tab down, and I'll just zoom into that for you guys so you can see it, and I'll make sure it goes into focus. Now this is a really easy setup. If you already fly acro, a lot of times all I do is I set up just an arm tab right there on my aux1 channel, and that's my arm switch. You can see that yellow little dot move there into the yellow part of the slider, and I usually like to crank these sliders in just a little bit. You can grab it and slide it like this. If you're new to Betaflight, this might help you out. So you generally want that little yellow dot to be in the center of where the yellow is once it's armed, and that way the quad knows it's armed. But there's no battery plugged in right now, so I don't have to worry about my props. Now down on the next line down, we're going to go to auxiliary 3, and that's for our beeper, and it actually works with just that USB cable plugged in, and I could probably move that over just a little more, and that's on a 3-position switch. So at the very bottom of the switch is where it activates the beeper, and everything else in there is going to be turned off. If you want to add stability, you can do that. That's angle mode right there, and you can put that on the modes switch, which would generally be my aux2 switch. And I always start out with stability, and then you can do horizon as the next position, and you can add that on whatever auxiliary your Frsky radio is on. So I could save that real quick, and I'll just show you that it does move on aux2. So very top position would be stability, horizon mode, and then finally acro. And if you're new to Betaflight, you don't have anything out here. It just goes into the void basically for acro mode. It took me a while to figure that out as a new guy, so there's no tab on this modes section here anywhere that says acro. Never understood why they do it that way, but that's the way it is done in Betaflight. And I'm just gonna take angle mode off and horizon mode off and just leave it pure acro there. So when I arm my quad, I'm already in acro and ready to go. Now we're going to go to the motors tab. If you need to test your motor direction, what I generally do is I put one prop on at a time on the bench, hold it in my hand, and I arm the motors, and I do them one motor at a time. And you can do that here with motor number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now for the OSD configuration, this is fun for me because Betaflight OSD is really a lot of fun because you can move things around on the screen, you can add things, and once you've done that, you can save it. So I have my battery telemetry here. It tells me I have 16.8 or whatever the highest charge of my battery rate is, or the lowest rate, and my flying rate, which is all real time, which is super great. Now down at the bottom, just below that, I have my mode that I'm flying in, and today that's going to be acro only or in air mode. And we have the craft name here in the middle, X120 Bolt. Over here I have my fly time, so I can kind of keep an eye on how long I've been flying that particular battery. And once you have everything ready, you can just click save. And guys, if you want to change the font inside Betaflight, it's super easy. If you want to just go down to the font manager right here, click on that, and this little screen pops up. And now you have a way to change your bold, large, extra large, Betaflight style font, digital, clarity, and you can even open up your own font file and add it inside Betaflight. But I like clarity because it's actually pretty large and bold, and you can see it pretty good. Now, once you're done, you can press upload font, and this little menu bar will come all the way across here and load up, and Betaflight will reset. And after it does that, you'll have your larger font on here like this. So pretty cool. You guys that can't see that default font very well, you can make it bigger by doing it that way. And then just hit save and you're all good. So next we're going to come over here to the CLI, and I'm just going to do a version check right here for you. Just type in version, and it says we have Omnibus F4 on board, and we're running Betaflight 3.2.4. It's from January of this year, which is okay. I could probably update it to 3.3, but I'm going to be lazy today and just fly it stock the way it came on 3.2. So we'll go ahead and go out of Betaflight now, and we can go out and do some line of sight flying and some FPV. Here we go. All right, here we go, guys. Let's go ahead and power it up. Sounds pretty good, pretty punchy on those 1106s. Pretty much what I was expecting. 20 amp ESC is good size for this power setup. I've got a 4S 850 on there. It can fly that all day long. It's going to give you a little longer flight time. It's going to fly a little bit heavier. Right now I'm cruising in acro mode. Seems to handle really good. And what I was telling you guys about was that the factory tune seems good. I don't hear any vibes. Got a nice roll rate. Really nice. So we're gonna have some fun with this one. It's definitely gonna be a good flyer. Kind of comparable to something like the Babyhawk R edition. Not the smaller one, of course. Because it does have 1106s on there like the Babyhawk R does. We've got all the bells and whistles on this one. It should for $140. Should be nice and ready for FPV. All right, so let's go ahead and bring it back down now that I know it flies good, line of sight. Everything's checked out. This is gonna be a maiden FPV flight, so we're gonna go ahead and set it on the ground now and make sure this little dog doesn't get it. Here we go. What's going on, doggy? What are you doing? What are you doing? Okay, so we're all done flying the Bolt X120. This is a pretty decent quad. I like this frame a lot. I think that I did punish a 3S battery, so the 3S battery is probably a little bit hard to fly with this power setup. I would probably only fly this one on 4S. If you're a beginner, you can start out with a 3S like 450 to 550 battery, and that's going to do okay, but you're not going to get extreme performance out of that. So if you want a nice freestyle machine with this one, you're going to fly this one optimally on like a 4S 550 would probably be the perfect power to weight ratio, because it's going to be light enough that it doesn't wander a whole lot. If you have a heavier battery on here, it's going to wander on that yaw axis. So I did have a little bit of wandering on my heavier batteries. I tested out a 4S 1000 milliamp for you guys, and it was definitely having some serious wander on the yaw axis as I was coming around in my turns. So one thing to think about with this quad is try to keep it as light as you can with the battery. Get a high C rated battery, something like a 75C or above, and this moderate power combo with the ESC is gonna perform the best. But did perfect with the Firefly on top. I like that flat top that they have. Little 1.5 millimeter top is good. Little niobium standoffs and a 3 millimeter bottom plate. That's really what you want. I did crash on the concrete with this over there, and I don't really see a scratch on it. And I came out of that without breaking any of the arms. So the unibody on the bottom is actually pretty durable. Now I don't know if frame parts are available for this one yet, but when I find out, I'll add some links for you guys. But in the meantime, you can check out the various links below for the bind and fly. They have a lot of different options for this one with FrSky receivers and Flysky receivers, or no receiver at all. But mine's riding right on the back right here, and it did start to move a little bit, so add enough VHB that this doesn't move back there, or you might be able to just tuck it in back here behind these two posts right here. That's probably the best spot for it, right behind the back two posts, in between the beeper and the flight controller. But I do like a lot of these quads that are coming out with this flat top. It really makes running my Firefly really easy, and it's a lot better than trying to just record DVR and show you guys. So I'm pretty happy with the Firefly still. Recording 1080p at like 14 grams is definitely awesome and a no-brainer. Now they do give you in the box one of those full-size battery straps, and if you're going to run something like a 550 or an 850 battery on there, it's probably best to just go ahead and pull this little chintzy strap off here. I don't like these that much, and they don't really seem to hold all that well. I would probably just pull that off and replace it with a bigger strap. That's going to be better for this quad and keep your battery tight to the frame. But I think we have another winner here as far as like performance goes. It flies really, really fun. It's agile, and if you want to fly it slow and true, you can do that too. It does track pretty straight out in the field. And I had almost too much fun with it over top of the trees doing some of the freestyle stuff. It's really, really precise, and I wanted to take more chances with it, but I didn't want to break it today for you guys. And today the grass is pretty high, so I'm really, really glad there's a beeper on the back of this one. Otherwise, I might never find it out in this field. So great quad, I think. Thanks again for hanging out with me and flying as always, guys. I appreciate you watching my reviews. Take care, have a great weekend. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.